This is an interesting slide that I pulled just about a year ago or so, and basically looked at the top 10 viruses that were reported. Okay, if you look at the different viruses that are on there, a number of them actually do something to reduce your system security. What that means is it shuts off your personal firewall. It disables your antivirus. It does changes the configuration. It does something to lessen the security posture of your laptop by getting infected. That's a lot, right? The 55% could be a big number. Now also look at the quote at the bottom, because I'm going to refer back to this later in the presentation. Per Gartner, by year-end 2007, 75% of enterprises will be infected with undetected, financially motivated, targeted malware that evaded their traditional perimeter and host defenses. What that means is, it's not like it used to be. If you remember when I Love You came out, when all these different viruses and worms and all these things came out, they came out because people wanted to say, hey, look everybody, I made the front page. I've created this worm and it infected all these systems. It's changed completely now. Now it's saying, you know what, I'm not going to attack everybody. I'm going to attack 30 people at this company. They'll never find me. I'm going to run deep, and I'm just going to gather information until for whatever reason, I can no longer gather information. The game's completely changed. With the game completely changing, antivirus solutions alone are not enough to be able to address that. So even if companies are saying, hey, you know what, I am going to invest in antivirus, I'm even going to get personal firewalls for my machines, once they leave the comfort of the corporate land, they have no idea if these systems are even up and running or if they're up to date. And that's a pretty big problem. As you'll see, malware will disable these types of applications, but then also end users will be. I love this slide. I think this is a great example. So if you're a company who says, all right, I got antivirus running up today, I got that personal firewall, I'm doing all the things that I'm supposed to be doing as a company. Well, if a user gets a new internet connection, which you can see on the left, this is a screenshot from my machine, by the way. I moved, and before I could get on the internet, it said, you know what, will you please disable your firewall and antivirus so that you can get on the internet where everybody's trying to attack you. Right? It's a little bit counterintuitive there. And then, of course, if you look at the screenshot on the right there, if you're installing a quick cam, why not shut off your antivirus? Right? Why not lower that protection? The point is this. Just because a machine has the proper setup and configuration when they're sitting on the LAN, that doesn't mean when they leave the LAN they have that proper configuration into place, and that's where they're the most vulnerable. NAC is a big thing in this day and age, right? It is, and it serves a purpose. When I talk to companies and I talk to them about how the machines are most vulnerable when they're on the road, how malware will disable their security applications, how end users will disable their applications, they say, you know what? I'm okay with that, because you know what? When they decide to VPN back into the corporate network, when they come back onto the corporate LAN, if those things are disabled, they're not getting on. So we're protecting ourselves. We're great. Well, that's fine, but let's consider this. When do people actually handle their data? When do people actually need to be checked and restricted and quarantined and all that good stuff? How about all the time, not just when they're on the corporate LAN? Why? Well, here's a real good example. And I can tell you in dealing with corporate in America, that this example covers probably about 99% of the companies that are out there. What happens is a user has a corporate laptop and they connect to the internet. They can be at a hotel room, they can be at home, they can be at a public Wi-Fi hotspot. It doesn't matter. They decide that they want to surf the internet. So they surf the internet. People do use their laptops for personal use all the time. It's not even frowned upon, really. You know what? If you're going to work 12 hours a day and you're on the road, by all means check your personal email. Why would you want to restrict somebody? Right? You got to have that work-life balance. But what happens is the person surfing the internet and he visits a couple web pages. Let's say that he visits one of those 1 in 10 that Google found that's going to do something bad to his machine, and he gets infected. Basically what happens is literally you view a web page, again, not clicking on anything, for 2 seconds, literally 2 seconds, and your machine is completely compromised. So let's say that this happened to this user. They're surfing the internet, they visit a malicious website, and they become infected. They get a rootkit installed that's running real deep, undetected, nothing's going to be able to catch it. Then, at that point, they decide to VPN back into the corporate network, or they physically come back on the corporate network, and their NAC solution is going to assess them. Hey, is everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine. Well, clearly not everything is fine. When they were mobile, when they were in that mobile blind spot, and that mobile blind spot is going to be that area that's right over here, when that company didn't have that insight to that machine, when that company didn't have the proper protections for that machine when it's out there, it became infected. Is that NAC and NAP solution going to catch it when it comes back in? Maybe, maybe not. Again, malware and all these different things that are out there to exploit machines, they're running deep. They're not trying to infect every machine that's out there. They're trying to get to the ones that they can, run deep, and never be caught, and just be silent. Okay, so this is actually a really prime example of how somebody who's mobile can be exploited. I'm actually going to show you an example of this taking place now. Let me bring this up real quick. So what I have set up here is basically two different things. One is, think of them as a victim, and this is just a corporate user, right? A typical corporate user who happens to have corporate data that's on his machines. It happens all the time, whether it's sales information, competitive information, formulas. There's some type of intellectual property on just about every corporate machine that's out there. And this person happens to be, let's just say he's sitting at a Starbucks. Nothing against Starbucks, but a lot of people go there for Wi-Fi, right? And he's sitting on there, and you can see, if you look at his machine, he's got his folder on here, his secret data folder, with his top secret information in there. He keeps it all very organized. You can see he has customer account numbers, he has some passwords, employee social security numbers, all kinds of good stuff on his laptop. Okay? And he's at a public Wi-Fi hotspot, he's checking his personal email. So we have a victim that's sitting there. On the other end, we have an attacker. Now this attacker, what he wants to do is create a malicious web page where somebody visits it for less than 2 seconds and they're able to exploit the machine. Again, this isn't pie in the sky stuff. This happened. When you heard about Monster.com, it was very similar to this scenario right here. And it's going to happen more and more often, I assure you that. So basically on this side you have an attacker. And I'm using a tool here that's called Metasploit. It was developed by H.D. Moore. Not sure if you all have heard of him. He's a real smart security guy. If you've never heard of this tool and you're interested in security, I highly, highly recommend you become familiar with it. Basically what it is, it's a security tool. And it's free. Go to metasploit.org and download it, and you'll be able to mess around with it. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to dish up a malicious web page, and then that other guy's going to connect to it, and let's see what happens. So I have this all set up here, and basically all I have to do, let me come in here, is I'm going to toy the reexploit command. And basically it's now serving up a web page that's malicious, just waiting for somebody to happen by to be able to connect to it. And again, this malicious code could be embedded in trusted sites that you visit as well. Now, here we have our friend Larry, who's sitting at a public Wi-Fi hotspot, who receives an email from his friend. Hey, check out this website, it's funny. Just a link to check something out. Well, he looks at it and says, you know what, yahoo.com, I trust them. And it goes to funny, you know what, let me see what's going on with that web page. And he goes there and he brings up the web page. What actually happened is you can see over here, you can see that he connected to this web page being on here. I'm going to run one quick command over here. And boom. We saw him bring up that web page real quick. That C prompt that you see, this area that's right over, and of course I just went right over it. This right here, that C prompt is on that victim's machine. That's on that Larry's machine. I have access to his machine, so let me run a couple commands here. Oh, directory. Hey, I can see everything that's on his machine. You know what? He's got that secret data folder. That's interesting. Let me see what's in there. Excuse me for a minute. Oh, look, a top secret.txt file. Let's see what's in there. Oh, look, customer account information, password information, employee social security number information. Right? You with me? Guy visited a web page for less than 2 seconds. His system is 100% completely compromised. I can take whatever data I want off of here. I can lower security applications, shut them off. I could load a keylogger on here that'll send me every key that he typed. And it'll send it to me every day, every hour if I wanted to. All because he visited a malicious web page. Okay? This is not pie in the sky stuff, and it's pretty easy. You see how fast that was? I didn't click on anything to be exploited. I just clicked on a link. That's all it was. All I did was visit a web page. That's a real big deal for corporate America. I can tell you that most companies that are out there are susceptible to this, and I'll tell you why. Any questions about that before I go on? Did that make sense to everybody what happened? Okay. So how do you protect against it? Well, I think there's two main things that would protect against it. The first is, how about ensuring the mobile device, that device, Larry's laptop that he was connecting with, how about that it was patched in a compliant state before he was allowed to go on the internet, before he was allowed to check his email? That would make sense, right? You know what? If he had a patch, if he had a specific Microsoft patch, that would have never worked. This exploit wouldn't have worked. There's actual fix to this that will stop it from happening. He didn't have it. Why didn't he have it? Well, because he's at a Wi-Fi location. He can't talk. He can't even talk to his internal patch distribution infrastructure, which every company has. It's not able to patch him when he's mobile. So he wasn't able to get that patch, so he was on there. Mobile NAC, which is a concept. There's two types